Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Fastamai, good evening. How are you? Welcome to Update, a half-hour look at today's main news. Coming up in the next half hour, the government conference has been and gone. We'll hear about some of the main announcements. Also tonight, the Chief Constable has released his first annual report. We'll go through some of the highlights. And nearly a year on from ShopRite announcing it was selling all of its stores, we'll hear from the person who's overseen the rebranding to Tesco. We'll also have any details of road issues to look out for on your way home. There are some traffic lights around Fort Island which might be a little bit problematic. And as ever, if you'd like to get in touch, 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. First, Chanel has a roundup of the main news headlines for us.
Proactive measures are being introduced at ports on the Isle of Man in a bid to stop criminal exploitation. The Department of Home Affairs has released a new strategy called Securing Our Island. Government claims it will make it harder for the island's position to be exploited by securing borders and ensuring efficient and fair entry processes. Manx Care has confirmed it's reminded all of its staff of the policy and rules around social media and electronic communications, which they are expected to follow. It comes after a petition was started by a former employee calling for the chief executive, Theresa Cope, to resign. And air traffic controllers are fed up of being mocked on social media when flights are delayed or cancelled. That's the view of the outgoing airport director, Gary Cobb, and he said that the comments posted online can cause distress and end up driving much-needed ATC staff away from their roles. In international news, reports suggest more than 100 people may have been injured in fresh blasts across parts of Lebanon. 24 hours after pages exploded, witnesses say handheld radios have now blown up in Beirut. It's emerged the UK Prime Minister's top aide is paid more than he is. Sue Gray was reportedly given a salary of £170,000 after the general election. And food container firm Tupperware has filed for bankruptcy in the US. The company was founded 78 years ago when its products were famously sold at Tupperware parties in the 60s, 70s and 80s. Those are your headlines. News at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Chanel. Sad news there about Tupperware. How much have you got in your cupboard? The weather this evening brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Well, the good news is fine and dry, clear overnight, light or moderate easterly winds, and minimum temperatures tonight will be around 11 Celsius. And tomorrow we can get used to forecasts like this. Another fine and sunny day, just a light moderate breeze, and it's going to feel warm or very warm for the time of the year, with maximum temperatures around 19 or 20, and little change on Friday as well. Sunset this evening will be at 7:26. It was a phenomenal sunset out west yesterday. Sunrise tomorrow morning just before 7.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Many people are struggling. You could help them with a donation to Isle of Man Food Bank, whether food or other essential items or financial support. Please call 646 999. Brought to you by Descon Office Interiors.
Relax at Wicked Soy Candles overlooking Douglas Bay. Our candle and wax melt courses includes refreshments from £40 per person, and you can bring your own drinkies. Wicked Soy Candles, Tower House Douglas, where relaxation and creativity come together.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. It's just coming up to 4.5 minutes past 5. So, as we know now, the government conference is finished. So, over the past 2 days, there have been a number of announcements. You can find many of the details at manxradio.com. But something that happened earlier today was the Department of Home Affairs saying proactive measures were going to be introduced at ports on the Isle of Man in a bid to stop criminal exploitation. So, it's released a new strategy. It's called Securing Our Island, with government government claiming it will make it harder for the island's position within the common travel area to be exploited. Minister Jane Poole-Wilson says it's about securing borders and ensuring efficient and fair entry processes.
So the common travel area allows basically free movement between the UK, Northern Ireland and the Crown dependencies, us and the Channel Islands. And I think that free movement is something we probably all value. That is also what is the source of risk, is that it is perfectly possible for those who would seek to exploit the Isle of Man to move very freely. So what it will mean for us, and I think what people will see that's different, is they will see an enhanced presence at the ports. They will also see more of a presence meeting all passenger movements, if you like. The other thing that we're looking at, because we do have finite resource in terms of our officers and so on, we're looking at the use of technology to get smarter and more effective at capturing the criminal elements that would seek to cross our borders. So that's use of automatic number plate recognition, which is a way of capturing known vehicles that are associated with criminal activity. We're also looking at facial recognition technology, which again is an automated process, so it would literally capture against a list of known criminals to see whether they are entering the island. The data is not held in the long term. It's a momentary automated process, but what that does is it gives our law enforcement officers the chance to recognise quickly that somebody has arrived in the Isle of Man who is a known criminal. I do want to emphasise that we are taking a proportionate approach. It is really important that the way in which we do all of this is underpinned solidly by a legislative process, and so we're working on legislation to support these types of use of technology. And then I think the other side of it is, quite rightly, there needs to be due oversight as to how the technology is being used in practice. So I do think that's a vital part of how we move forward.
Home Affairs Minister Jane Poole-Wilson.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Chief Constable Russ Foster's first annual report has revealed a 5% reduction in overall recorded crime over the past year. Now, between April 2023 and March 2024, police received over 14,700 calls for help and made 1,980 arrests. Well, Lewis Foster is joining me now in the studio. So, Lewis, is the new Chief Constable's first report card as glossy as that headline figure might appear?
Well, recorded crime between 2022 to 2023 was up 7%, so puts the overall figure for this year slightly higher than 2021 to 2022. The report also boasts a detection rate of 54%, so that's up 6% from last year. If you're wondering what that is, that's the ratio between how many crime investigations have been finalised as detected to the total number of crime investigations finalised in a particular period. Crimes that remain under investigation are not included in that calculation, for example. So those are the headline stats, but whilst overall crime might be down, we've seen a 16% rise in sexual assaults, and sexual offences in the broader term, but not including rape, are up from 34% to 62%. There's also been an increase in the number of sexual offences reported, but Mr. Foster says this was not unexpected, with the new sexual offences and domestic abuse legislation being a topic of wider conversation, as well as the introduction of more support for victims and training for officers. They're hoping that victims are having growing confidence in being able to report such instances. Now, rape figures are counted separately, and although 15 reported rape allegations were finalised as undetected over the year, the majority, it says, could not be progressed due to a lack of evidence or conflicting accounts. The Chief Constable says it's hoped this could be improved, and once the new Sexual Assault Referral Centre build is complete, that victims of any sexual abuse or assault will feel confident in attending the centre for medical support and to collect and store forensic evidence without first having to involve the police.
So this is Russ Foster's first annual report since taking over from Gary Roberts. What has he said?
Well, he says it's extremely impressive and is indicative of the commitment, professionalism and tenacity of the police officers and staff who work for the constabulary, and he's pleased with those headline stats we shared before. He's reflected on the development of the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, or MASH, which you might have heard about, which he says enhances the collective capability to protect vulnerable people on the island. He also says early intervention and action is helping to tackle serious violence and antisocial behaviour. And he says they have been relentless in tackling organised crime groups who exploit the borders, not just for drugs purposes, but what he calls more pernicious organised criminality, where people have been subject to human trafficking and modern-day slavery.
And Lewis, crime aside, it has also been an interesting year for police pay as well.
That's right. Police pay increased from September 2023 by 7% in July and again by a further 4.75% this month. So as it stands, new police constables are starting on a pay of £33,691. That's pay, but retention, however, still proving to be a problem, it would seem. This from the report. Unfortunately, the former Chief Constable has been proved right, and despite the best efforts of the current Chief Constable to engage officers across the Isle of Man Constabulary and outline the benefits of working for the organisation, the staffing situation has continued to deteriorate over the past year. The issue of police officer retention is the greatest challenge facing the Isle of Man Constabulary, and the Chief Constable has engaged with the DHA in desperation, it says, to seek a sustainable resolution in terms of police pay, which appears to be a key driver in police officers leaving the constabulary.
Lewis Foster, thank you very much indeed. That's a look at the Chief Constable's annual report. More on that at manxradio.com, and that report will be discussed in Tynwald next month. 5:11 The Isle of Man's outgoing airport director has told us there is a lot of unhappiness in the air traffic control team at Ronaldsway Airport. Gary Cobb says it's due to the level of hostility that staff are facing when flights are delayed or cancelled.
Whilst we still have issues, there's still quite a lot of work to do. Actually, our performance in summer of this year has been a lot better than what we saw last year, and hopefully next year we'll see similar improvements going along, and eventually until staffing and resilience is into the system that we can not necessarily have to speak about ATC or delays or anything like that again.
And of course it is a major concern for the travelling public when they have delays to their flights or flights cancelled. You did though suggest that perhaps people could be a little bit more circumspect in the way that they criticise. Certainly one of the suggestions that I got from what you were saying was that perhaps air traffic controllers are leaving the Isle of Man because of the abuse that they get, the ridicule they get on social media.
So whilst no direct proof that air traffic controllers are leaving, I know that there is a lot of unhappiness in the team with the level of hostility that they face. Our air traffic controllers are deeply proud of the profession that they do. Everybody who works in aviation loves what they do. I know that our air traffic controllers now don't tell anybody where they work, because as soon as they mention it, they'll get the jokes, they'll get quite a lot of abuse. We need to remember that these are the guys, and it's not just air traffic control. Without fire, without security, without airfield ops, the airport would close. These guys and girls turn up every day, go above and beyond, and are the reason why we can stay open for as long as we can. I think 75 times out of 92 we've managed to extend past their contracted hours. They do everything that they can, so shouting at the people who are going above and beyond it just seems a little bit crass sometimes, unfortunately. And I think whilst the problems can be aimed at me, can be aimed at government, I think aiming it at the people who do all the hard work at the front line, I think is wrong, and I think people should get behind them. It is a market where people can leave and can go to other places. They can vote with their feet, and if people decide to vote with their feet and go to an area where they are respected, where they are loved and welcomed, that will have a really bad impact on us.
That is the Isle of Man's outgoing airport director, Gary Cobb, talking to Phil Gaughan. 5:14. Let's turn our attention to business with Ramsey Crookall now. And KPMG in the Crown Dependencies has announced the appointment of Nick Quayle as the new lead partner for the Isle of Man. The company says Nick brings a wealth of experience and a strong track record across multiple industries, including financial services, real estate and gaming, making him an excellent choice to lead the firm's operations over here. Now, Nick has been with KPMG for 27 years. He's got an extensive background in Audit Services, and says, "I am honoured to take on this new role and lead the talented team at KPMG in the Isle of Man. I look forward to working with clients and colleagues to drive further success and innovation." Now, the stock market report from Ramsey Crookall, and they tell us that London stocks fell as investors mulled the latest UK inflation reading and looked ahead to a policy announcement from the US Federal Reserve. That's been much awaited, hasn't it? While inflation in the UK was unchanged at 2.2%, a rise in services inflation is likely to keep policymakers more reticent about reducing rates again tomorrow. US stocks wavered amid uncertainties on just how aggressive the Federal Reserve will be with those rate cuts. Traders are fully pricing in a 25 basis point Fed reduction, with a chance of a bigger move seen as 50-50. Gold prices gained on a softer dollar amid investor caution, and US crude oil edged lower today. The oil market has been rattled this month by worries about a growing imbalance between supply and demand. We're looking at the commodities. Gold up 0.09% at $2,571. Brent off 0.01% at $73.67. And a short time ago, before the close, of FTSE 100 was off 0.68% at 8,253. The Dow Jones off 1.16% at 41,538. And the Nasdaq was up 0.01% at 17,627.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So OK with off-island travel down at the steam packet and the airport as well. And on the roads, the only thing to mention really is around the Cool Road Fort North roundabout. That's near the B&Q Jackson's roundabout. There is a team there undertaking carriageway patch repairs at several locations all this week. Now we understand that two-way traffic is being maintained using temporary traffic lights 24 hours a day. I think they were only supposed to be sort of between 9:30 and 3:30. So there might be a little bit of a delay if you're heading that way home. Anything else you spot, 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with Quayside.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. It's coming up to 18 minutes past 5, and the man who has overseen Tesco's redevelopment of ShopRite stores is leaving the island. Andy Sanderson was brought over as store director to manage the transition, which was actually just under a year ago, can you believe? So far, all but 2 of the 9 shops have reopened, and he told us he has mixed emotions about leaving.
Yeah, clearly quite sad, really. I've got a new role in London in the UK, which will start in a couple of weeks' time, so I do leave the island this Saturday. It's a really mixed emotion. I'm really pleased about my new role, but equally I've really loved being on the Isle of Man. It's been a fantastic country to be working in, working with suppliers, with the government, consumers, customers, the store teams, obviously welcoming the ShopRite team, obviously over to Tesco as well, has been great. And as you know, I'm always going to have a really fond memory of my time on the island. It's a beautiful place, lots of amazing things to do with really friendly, heartwarming people that have really welcomed us in. You know, I'm really proud about the way we've opened the stores and what we've been able to give the island, and the offer and the range and the price that we give customers. There's always more to do and always will be, and we'll work very hard and kind of look forward to hopefully establishing the business on the island really well for many years to come.
And you've been an integral part of that transition as well, and from producers to members of government, everyone has been so complimentary about the work that you've been doing and also how much you value the island and its local produce and championing that. And how do you think that that's going to continue going forward with your successor?
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I mean, what's been great is everyone on the island, from DEFRA, Business for Enterprise, the Chief Minister, and all the suppliers, there's been a real willingness to work together and collaborate, and I think that's made it much easier for us all. And we really respect being here. We feel very privileged to be able to open all of these stores on the island and serve customers. So we've got a great relationship that's already running. We do have a replacement coming over who will start imminently, and he will continue that work. And hopefully in the years to come, we'll sell even more local products, and customers will carry on getting all these great offers and great prices, and have great shops to come in and shop with every week.
And of course, the transition hasn't completed yet. There are still a couple of little shops just to finish opening up. Are you sad that you don't get to see the whole project through?
Yeah, look, I think you always kind of want to see things through to the end, but life is often doesn't always work out quite like that. We're opening obviously Ramsey tomorrow. The large store in Peel is going to open kind of mid to late October. The great news is we've managed to install the ATM. Once Manx Utilities have completed the power upgrade in the store, then we'll be able to start obviously getting ready to open. And then the old Wine Right store we're looking to open in the early new year, because there's quite a significant power upgrade to be done. But yeah, look at the last two stores to open after tomorrow, and I know they'll all be great, and the teams have worked super hard to get them ready for opening.
That is Andy Sanderson, the man who's overseen Tesco's redevelopment of all those ShopRite stores. We say Ramsey store opening tomorrow, Peel mid-October. There will be more about what Tesco has been doing specifically for local produce on breakfast tomorrow morning. It's coming up to 21 minutes past 5. Now, here's something we talked about when the news broke yesterday on Update. And although news of the 2026 Commonwealth Games has been welcomed by many, the Isle of Man's team's chief de mission says many questions do remain unanswered. Erica Bellhouse says while it's a positive development, the plans are progressing for a scaled-down event in Glasgow in just under 2 years' time, some tough conversations and decisions do await down the line.
Great news for our athletes. Still lots of questions out there. We've been given limited information, so we know that there'll be 10 sports, but we don't know what those sports will be. But as I say, all positive, really good news, and hopefully our athletes, once we know the sports, our athletes have got something really positive to work towards.
Give us an idea as well of what it means to these athletes, the fact that the Commonwealth Games is the highest level at which you can compete in the Manx colours.
Oh, I think it's hard to put into words, Rob. I mean, you were obviously in Birmingham, and the atmosphere in the village was just fantastic. The way that the Manx public get behind the team, it really is incredible.
We don't have any confirmation yet on what these 10 sports will be. Does that mean the likes of yourselves and the CGA might just have some difficult conversations to have with a couple of sports that will inevitably miss out?
Absolutely. And, there's so many amazing sides to my role, but there's also some tough sides to it. We have to let people down, and that is horrible. But unfortunately, this is completely outside of our hands. We have no input into what those sports may or may not be. I think it's a fair assumption to assume that athletics and swimming will be involved, because they are obviously the two main core sports. After that, I have hand on heart no further information, but I think it's inevitable that some of our sports may not be included, and that is going to be some tough conversations to have.
So what would your advice to athletes be that have no idea whether their sport will or won't be in the 2026 Games?
Well, I'm going to reiterate the same conversation that we've had a few times in the last few months, Rob, and that is to just keep continuing as if their sport is included and they will be potentially available for selection. That is the only way that I believe any athlete can continue at this precise moment.
That is chef de mission of the tour of what is she, Rob? I knew that was going to go wrong because I said it wrong. I said chief de mission first of all, and I was like, no, I must get it right, and then I got it wrong again.
Chef de mission.
Yes. Erica Bellhouse talking about the Commonwealth Games. There will be much more discussion about that very shortly, presumably. I don't know, I'm making everything up now. Rob, tell us about the sport. What's happening?
OK, well, we're going to start with football, and FC Isle of Man's Luke Murray has announced he is set to step away from the club. The striker has released a statement confirming he's leaving the setup due to medical reasons. Well, Murray says his diagnosis is exercise-induced supraventricular tachycardia, also known as SVT, adding he has struggled with heart issues for a few years, which has contributed contributed to him having spells in and out of football as a whole. Well, he is thanking the FC Isle of Man fans for their continued and unconditional support, in his words, as well as the players, manager and coaching staff for supporting him through the challenges of the last few years. You can read the players' statements in full at manxradio.com. Well, elsewhere tonight, FC Isle of Man are in action against South Liverpool in the NWCFL Premier Division at Jericho Lane. Kick-off at 7:45pm. You can hear the pre-match thoughts of manager Paul Jones over at manxradio.com. Well, elsewhere in cycling, Isle of Man cyclist Lizzie Holden is set to represent Great Britain at the UCI Road World Championships later this week. The 27-year-old has been selected for the 4-strong GB Elite Women's squad for the event, which this year is being held in Zurich, Switzerland, from Saturday until next Sunday. Well, joining the 2023 British Elite Women's National Time Trial champion in the female team will be 2024 Olympic Time Trial silver medalist Anna Henderson, double Olympic track medalist Eleanor Barker, as well as Claire Steels. Holden will take on the Elite Women's Road Race at the Championships, which is due to take place on Saturday, the 28th of September. Well, the honoured competitor has also been in action for UAE Team ADQ today in Belgium for the Sanfoulen Grand Prix de Wallonie one-day race, finishing 54th and just over 3.5 minutes behind stage winner and teammate Carlin Svinkels. And in motorsport, rising Manx racing star Iliam Quayle is now expected to appear again at the British National Superstock Series after his debut in the competition last weekend. The Manx legend racing rider made his maiden appearance in the event at the latest round at Alton Park from the 13th to the 15th of September and managed a 28th place finish in the first race of the meeting, while Iliam, who's the son of TT winner Richard Milky Quayle, then went even better in the second race of the weekend, crossing the line 10 places higher in 18th. Well, on social media, his team has described the experience as a successful trip and have confirmed Quayle is now also entered into the next round of the championship at Donington Park, which will be held from the 27th to the 29th of September.
Oh, we wish him all the very best with that. And actually, Iliam Quayle and Richard Milky Quayle were former guests on the Journey to a Dream podcast, and it was just amazing, I think, Rob, when you see just how far he's come in a really short space of time. He's obviously got Milky there, which is got to be a huge bonus when you're thinking about road racing in general, to have that knowledge and expertise. But as Milky said during that podcast, it's also really difficult for him as well, because, you know, that's his little boy at the end of the day on a bike.
Yeah, obviously he's been, you know, Milky has been around road racing and around motorcycle racing for all his life pretty much as well. So it did seem almost like a bit of a natural progression for Iliam. But like you say, there may well indeed be a little bit of a mental conflict going on there. But clearly what Iliam is showing at the moment is a fantastic progress in the sport. And what was interesting about the statement that the Manx Legend Racing team put out said that keep an eye out maybe for some big plans going into next year. We have no idea what those are yet. The team will no doubt have something in mind to announce in the coming days, weeks or months. We'll see.
We will watch this space indeed. Rob, thank you very much indeed. That is all from Update this evening. Just a reminder that you can find all the details about today's main news stories at manxradio.com. We've also got the newscast section as well, and there are longer interviews on there. So if you want to look back in some detail at the government conference, we've got all the details from day 1 and day 2 on there. You can find those on the front page. Up next, it's Spotlight with Howard Kane tonight, then Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley, then Ernie's Eclectic will be on from 9pm, and Rianne will round off your Wednesday from 10pm with After Hours. Whatever you're up to this evening, do have a good one. Enjoy that sunshine. If you can get out west to watch the sunset, honestly, last night it was just unbelievable, and the sun is set to be here for the next few days at least, so that's something to look forward to. Have a great evening, whatever you're doing, as I say, and we'll see you back here at 5pm tomorrow.